بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقه قولي. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. Dear brothers and sisters in Islam, today I would like to talk about the coup that has happened in Tunis, in Tunisia. And Tunisia was the place where what is known as the Arab Spring started in 2010, when Tariq al-Tayyib Muhammad al-Bouaziz burnt himself. And that started the revolutions that swept the whole of the Middle East. So what I'd like to talk about is, number one, is this a coup? And number two, why did it happen? And number three, why did the Arab Spring fail? Now, number one, is it a coup? Yes, it is. The Tunisian constitution states that the head of state can take extraordinary measures to safeguard the state, after consulting with the head of government and the head of parliament and informing the head of the legislative committee and then telling the people. It also says that during the time of these emergency measures, parliament remains seated and remains working. What the President of Tunisia, Qais Said, has done is he has cancelled parliament, effectively cancelled government by sacking all the ministers, and he just put the judges on notice. He just told them this has happened and deal with it. Of course, he is backed by the powers that never want democracy for the Middle East, and those are the tyrannical regimes in the United Arab Emirates, Saudi, and others, and of course Egypt. Of course, the West also, even though it claims that it wants democracy for the Middle East, the West prefers a democracy where they get to choose rather than the people. The problem that the West have with democracy in the Middle East is every time you put a ballot box in front of the people will vote for Islamic parties because the people are Muslim. And of course, the West do not want Islamic parties. They have tried the argument of, we're only against political Islam. Well, I've got news for you. You may not like it. Islam is political. The Quran has 500 verses that are legislative verses. The Quran has 32 verses that specifically states that the state must rule according to the commands of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It is impossible to separate politics from Islam, because Islam is not like any other ritualistic religion where you do it for one day and then you forget about it till the next week. The Quran and the sayings of our Prophet, peace be upon him, are all a manual for life, and politics is part of life. So Islam cannot be separated from politics. Now, usually the political parties that win in the ballot boxes in the Middle East have traditionally been the Muslim Brotherhood. The Muslim Brotherhood usually wins because it is the most organized and oldest political party. The problem with the Muslim Brotherhood is they are gradualists. which means they accept the little and then try and work on it. So in Egypt, as it is in Tunisia, the Muslim Brotherhood came into power, and they made concessions. They made concessions just to stay in power, in the hope that they could build upon just being in power to change things gradually, neglecting the fact that the deep state still exists. So in Egypt, the same army exists, the same security services existed, and Mohammed Morsi had no power whatsoever. So obviously what happened was a coup and 100,000 people in prison and around 10,000 people dead within 3 days. They burnt them alive in Nahda and Rab'a, and of course the West stood silent and congratulated El-Sisi. Where you have it here in Tunisia, because the Tunisian system was not as entrenched and everybody wanted a change, when Nahda, who are, to all intents and purposes, Muslim Brotherhood, got into power, again they made concessions, and it seemed like whatever concession they make is not enough, till they actually even lost their credibility with the Muslim people. And now we have a state of the Twitter world and the social media world of the Middle East is split into two. You've got the Gulf, who are celebrating the end of the Muslim Brotherhood, and you've got the more Islamic, who are basically wringing their hands together. The Arab Spring failed, and it failed because it tried to import a impossible situation. When you have a revolution, you have to clean up the house. You don't just liberate the house. And because they had a la land idea of what a peaceful revolution means, they left the house dirty, and now it's come back to bite them. I hope that the Tunisian people don't suffer the same as what the Egyptian people suffered and continue to suffer. It is my true hope, but I can actually see it is more than likely that we are going to have a situation that is no different from the situation in Egypt, as Qais Said has already banned the media, and there have already been attempts at arresting certain people who weren't found. But and of course many ministers have been sacked, and Qais Said enjoys an unlimited purse of backing from the United Arab Emirates. So I wish the best to the Tunisian people. Now, some may say, what has it got to do with you? You live in England, you're Iraqi origin, but you're a British citizen. So what has it got to do with you? My answer is very clear. The Tunisians are Muslims, which make them my brothers and sisters. The Tunisians are Arabs, which make them my countrymen. I do not recognize the borders that were drawn by Mark Sykes and George Picot. The Arab world we are all Arabs. and there's 500 million of us. And that is what really, really scares the West. The fact that there's 500 million of us. And that is why we have been split into so many nations, which I do not recognize the borders. And furthermore, the Tunisians are human beings. And I wish for every human being to enjoy the level of freedom that I have. Why not? I say what I say, and I ask forgiveness for all. أقول قولي هذا واستغفر الله لي ولكم ولسائر المسلمين. والسلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.